Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women Racing to Win right here on the Grid Network. Joe Samaniego and Daniel Zeri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet. Definitely encourage everyone to comment in the chat room or the comment section. We have a lot to talk about, and we'll start with a historic weekend in the Italian Formula 4 for Hamda Al Qubaisi.
Yes, good morning, everyone. As you said, Joe, it was quite an historic weekend for women in motorsport altogether, I would say. But we will get to that in a while. Hamda Al Qubaisi is racing this year in the Italian Formula 4 Championship for the second year in a row. It's her second full season in what is probably the most competitive single-seater championship, junior championship in the world. She's not the only woman in that championship, because it's also Maya Welg is making her debut in single-seaters. She's the first ever Ferrari female Ferrari Driver Academy racer. But let's talk about Hamda. Hamda had a very competitive preseason testing in the Italian Formula 4. We all knew that she would have been competitive and around the top 10 for most of the season. We were on track for the season opener at Paul Ricard in the south of France, and she had quite challenging races, because on pace-wise, she was always up there in the top 10, around the top 10, but she couldn't capitalize on her pace and had some unfortunate accidents that ultimately didn't allow her to score points in France. But when on Friday practice in Misano in the second round of the season, she was P7. We all understood that it would have been a very competitive weekend for the young Emirati star. She qualified P5 in the Q1 in the first qualifying session of the weekend in Misano, and that was really a breakthrough performance for Hamda and for the women in the championship, because it was the highest qualifying result for any females that ever entered the Italian Formula 4 Championship. And that's pretty much a pretty big accomplishment for Hamda and all the Prema, the power team squad. Then she went on to finish P7 in Q2, which was again another top 10. Great result for her, and her second fastest lap would gain her the P6 on the grid for race 3. So really, the expectations were super high for Hamda coming into the races of the weekend. In the first race, two of her teammates, Sebastian Montoya, the son of the former Formula 1 driver, and also Kirill Zmal, who were starting in the top in the front two rows of the grid, had difficult race starts. They didn't stall, but they were very slow off the line. And Hamda, on the other hand, was really quick off the line. She managed to avoid both her teammates and went straight up into third place, and then had a very, very competitive pace throughout the race. She was P3 and remained there throughout the race, and towards the closing stages of the race, she had to defend from the return of the Van Amersfoort racing car of Joshua Dufek, another couple of racers, but hanged on and finished third, which is the first podium finisher for a female driver in this championship, and also, of course, her best result in her career in Italian Formula 4. She had scored race wins in the Formula E for the Formula 4 UAE Championship, both in 2020 and in 2021. So already a Formula 4 race winner. But of course, in Europe, it's the first female victory in the Italian Formula 4. Belen Garcia had managed to score a race victory in the Spanish Formula 4 in 2019. So she was so far the only European female driver to win a race in Formula 4. And now Hamda has managed to score a podium in the Italian Formula 4, which is really a massive performance and achievement for women in motor racing. But also her weekend went on to score more points. In the second race, unfortunately, she was off the track in the early stages after a small mistake in the first laps. She had an off into the gravel, then rejoined, but of course she was at the back of the field, and there are like over 30 cars in this championship, so it was really hard for her to recover, but still managed to finish P20. Which again showed how she had pace to finish in the top 10 throughout the weekend. And in race 3, she was P9. Again, managed to be in P6, started P6, and she was P6 throughout the whole race. And after a late safety car, she dropped to P9 after a slow restart when 3 laps to go in race 3. But again, points, another top 10. It's only her first time that she finishes in the top 10 in the Italian Formula 4 Championship. So big points for her. But as we said, she is not the only female driver on track. Also, Maya Ware was racing in Misano. And she also scored her best result in the series to date. She was P14 into the first race on Saturday. Then also had quite a difficult second race, just as Hamda. She spun when she was P15 midway through the race, and finished P26 down to P26. So unlucky second race for Maya, but she was back in top form for race 3 when she was P12. Great race for her, and it's also her best finish of the season so far, and she was P3 among the rookies. So again, really important result for Maya. I would say that she is really improving. Also, just her second race of her career in single seaters. If she can improve a little bit her qualifying performances, she definitely showed great results in races. She has shown a great racecraft and wheel-to-wheel in the wheel-to-wheel battles. So I would say that if she can manage to qualify a little bit further up the order, we're definitely going to see Maya within the top 10 very soon. I'm sure about that. And both of these drivers, both Maya and Hamda, it's 2 days news actually. They will be back on track this weekend in the German Formula 4 Championship, because of course there is no clash with the Italian Championship, and we knew that Hamda was planning to do some races in the ADAC Formula 4 series in Germany. And now we have the news that both Maya and Hamda will be at Red Bull Ring in Austria for the season opener of the German Formula 4 Championship in a couple of days.
So for the second round of the F4 Italian Championship at Misano was definitely an important weekend for me. Coming into the weekend, we had quite good pace. I qualified P5 and P7 for Q1 and Q2 and started P6 for race 3. So it was a very good quali, my best quali ever during the series. So already with the confidence boost, I was already with a good motivation and big confidence. So going into race 1, all I had to do was stay with the front guys and finish in a good position. And happily, surprisingly, I don't know how, but finished P3 in race 1. I pushed to the limit. I made sure I was finishing in the top 3. I did my best to be there. So definitely I worked hard for it, and it's just a reminder that hard work and dedication does pay off. And in the end, I finished P3, which was something that I'm really, really proud about, and I would thank my sponsors Strata and Kaspersky Lab for their ongoing support. And of course, I'm happy to be there raising the flag of the UAE, and being the first female to ever get a podium in that F4 Italian Championship, something I never thought that I would be the one to be doing. So yeah, I'm really happy about the result, and 2 more podiums.
Last weekend, GT World Challenge America held round 3 of the season at Virginia International Raceway, the 17-turn, 3.27-mile road course located in Alton, Virginia, where there's no room for error. In race 1, the number 3 K-Pax race in Lamborghini, driven by Andrea Caldarelli and Jordan Pepper, held off the number 96 Turner Motorsport BMW of Robbie Foley and Michael Dinan to score the overall victory in the GT3 Pro class, but finished in third overall in the class winners in GT3 Pro-Am. Michael Cooper and his teammate, co-driver Erin Vogel, driving the number 19 DXDT Racing Mercedes AMG GT3. And today we have Erin Vogel on the Women Racing to Win to discuss the race weekend at VIR. Erin is back on Grid Network once again.
Hi, Kobe. It's really a pleasure to be back with you.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you here. And we know it's your first year in GT3. Seems like it's been a smooth transition so far from GT4 machinery. Now you have your first GT3 victory 3 race weekends in. And here's my first question for you today. How did the race play out for you and co-driver Michael Cooper to take the class honors in race 1 at VIR? Also, how are you liking GT3 so far?
Well, I am absolutely loving GT3. It's been a great transition. We did a lot of work with GT4 to prepare me for this. So it hasn't been the big step that a lot of people thought it might be. Definitely, I'm not to say that it isn't challenging, but it hasn't been overwhelming in any way. And yeah, as far as the race, I think actually the first place kind of came as a little bit of a surprise. Neither of us really had the qualifying results that we know we're capable of, and certainly that the car was capable of this weekend. We had a great car from DXDT. They, with the years of Mercedes experience that they have and everything that they've been able to provide us, we just were so prepared. But we just nailed it in the pit stop this weekend, and a lot of other people, for whatever reason, struggled with that in the first race. And so we just came out of the pits. We were third fastest in our pit stop out of the whole field, and came out fourth overall. And Michael was actually able to make another pass, and we ended up placing third overall and first in class. And it was really exciting. I mean, we knew right off the bat that we had an excellent chance because the next closest car in class was over 16 seconds or maybe even more than that behind. So they really had their work cut out for them. Plus there was out of class traffic that they had to contend with. So, for me, it was just driving a clean stint, doing everything I could to stay on track, because that was the biggest issue that most people were having this weekend. I spun in the second race, which I think had more to do with the fact that we'd had a little bit of a hit and the setup kind of got knocked out. But it was just such a slick track with the heat this weekend, and everybody was struggling to stay on track. So I just knew I had to drive the cleanest stint I could to hand over the car to Michael in good condition, which is just exactly what we did. And then the team executed just a flawless pit stop, which was really exciting. It was really a team effort this weekend, truly.
Yes, definitely. And in sports car racing, it's always a team effort. In sports car racing, we don't always hear about one driver like we do in NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula One. We hear about both drivers, or if it's an endurance race, we hear about all 3 drivers in the team itself, because it takes a team effort in order to get victories in sports car racing. And obviously Saturday was a really great day for you, Michael Cooper, and the entire team. Sunday, more so of an uphill battle with the car suffering a little bit of damage early in race 2, but you were still able to salvage a 5th place result in GT3 Pro-Am. What made race 2 more challenging to find the same amount of success you saw in race 1? And what's next, looking ahead to round 4 at Road America in August, 2 months away?
Yeah, I think the most challenging thing for us in race 2 was that early contact. It actually sliced the sidewall on the tire, so we had a slow leak, but we're able to continue. Michael was able to finish his stint without having to pit early or do an extra pit stop. So he drove really well with that. He was able, of course, to communicate over the radios that I was going to have to deal with some understeer when I got in the car. So I was prepared for that. Still took a couple laps to really get adapted to that, which just kind of played into me making a little bit of a mistake there. But, kind of once I figured out, where the car was, I was able to drive around it to the extent that actually I ended up being fairly competitive at the end of the race there, and caught some traffic ahead of me, and maybe would have gained another position if I'd had another couple of laps, but just didn't have it quite there at the end. And but we were still, because of that, still happy with the 5. And yeah, just really excited to take this momentum into, which is another great, really fast track that I think the Mercedes would be really strong at. They were strong there last year with the XCT. So we're just really what we're going to focus on this next time is really trying to qualify better because we know we can. We'll stay out of the mess a bit and be at the front of the field from the start. So that's our main goal because we know we have the pace and we know the teams, really gelling at this point and, really working hard to give us the car and the strategy that we need. So I think it's on us a little bit.
And besides the on-track action, we also saw several scary accidents at VIR last weekend. Mark Pombo went for a massive flip, barrel rolling multiple times in such a violent wreck. The next incident we didn't get to see on camera, but it was captured by @Party Car Photography on Instagram. Matt Dalton had a frightening wreck. The image was showing the car clearing the guardrail and heading straight into the woods. Then Derek Jones with a heavy impact into the tire barriers on Sunday afternoon. So I want to ask you, as a race car driver who's been on VIR, how intimidating is that VIR circuit? And do you think it's time for the track to make some changes to improve driver safety?
That's a great question. I don't know that I find the track intimidating. You certainly don't want to go off there if you can avoid it. I actually find the track very fun. And I have been off there and not actually had any issues. I think which is kind of somewhat just luck, the places that I've gone off. But yeah, it was really tough, especially right after, coming off of our win and then to immediately have a couple of really bad accidents. That was really tough, just emotionally, I think, for everybody. But I don't know that it's necessarily the track's fault. I think it's a track that we as drivers just have to know we need to treat with a little bit of respect. It's especially in the heat like that. I think that caught everybody out more than any of us expected. The track just kind of stayed greasy. It would be good in the mornings, but our races were in the afternoon. By then, the track just the grip wasn't, I think what some of us were used to from previous experiences there. So I think it's just a track that you have to know to respect and, drive within your limits. And you can't treat it with aggression. You have to treat it with focus and just consistency and smoothness. So I'm not sure I would say that any of it's on the track. I think, we as drivers, it's our responsibility to negotiate those things. Each track has its individual hazards and we just have to work around them.
Definitely. That's an interesting perspective, Erin. Thank you for being here today, providing your insight and discussing your big win at VIR, among other topics. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Kobe.
Yes, you always have a spot on this show. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Back to you, Joe and Daniel.
And there is Erin and her teammate there with their Mercedes. A big congratulations to them as well on such a huge weekend for them at Virginia International Raceway. Meanwhile, over in the West Coast, we had a pretty big weekend for the ARCA Menards West Series. Bridget Burgess was all the way from Australia coming here racing American stock cars. She is racing for BMI Racing, and the team had plans for success, especially in this race. First road course race at Sonoma Raceway, 11 turns. This is a big track that we saw essentially the NASCAR drivers handled with 8 caution flags. So it's not all the drivers got the hang of it. And for Bridget, this was going to be a huge test for her because this was also a single day format. This only gave the competitors about an hour of combined practice and qualifying time to start the grid and then start the race. And Bridget started 9th. Great effort by her. So we saw 22 cars qualify for this race. She drove a smart race and was being patient. That's what you got to do, especially in this road course where you got to get a rhythm. There's not a lot of passing opportunities, and driving a big stock car here in the United States, these stock cars, the traditional 8-shift pattern, you don't have the luxury of heated tires to go on the track. You got cold tires going out on the track, the car slipping and sliding all over the place. And she drove a solid race. She was up to 5th place. From 9th place coming up to 5th place, but then on lap 16, another driver got into her. She spun around and got some pretty significant damage. This is from her website, and you can see that front end headlight, driver's side, a lot of damage, but her pit crew did the work, and American Stock Car Racing very often you see cars like this finish towards the back. She fell towards the back, but then she worked her way up towards the front from 16th place, working her way to the top 10th, 8th place finish, career best for her. Definitely they were aiming for a top 5 finish. Of course, that top 5 finish went out with the spin, but to come back and finish in the top 5, huge effort by her and her team to run such a spark race. Bridget's next race in the ARCA Menards Series West will be at Irwindale Speedway, July 3rd. Definitely big congrats to her. And of course, the biggest race I think of the weekend that we saw throughout has to be the 24 Hours of Nurburgring.
Yes, it was. Even though this year it was not properly at 24 hours, but still, it is one of the biggest races in motorsport in the calendar year, I would say. It is a mighty race on the legendary Nürburgring Nordschleife, the 25 kilometers long racetrack in the Eifel in Germany. And we know that weather is always a little bit challenging over there. And it's very often that we find adverse weather conditions, be it rain, or even we had snow at some point in one of the previous races this year that had to be cancelled. The 24 hour of the Nürburgring this year, as we said, it was not 24 hours long, but it was like more 9.5 hours long, because in the evening it has to be red flagged due to the fog, and we didn't have any racing throughout the night, and the race could only restart on Sunday's morning. Actually at 12 p.m. on Sunday, for what it was a little bit like a 4-hour sprint race to the finish flag. We had many female drivers there. There were 10 female drivers in the 24-hour race, and 11 if we count Jessica Bachmann, who was racing in WTCR as a support series. Probably the most interesting lineup in this race was the all-female crew of the Girls Only by GT Tire WS Racing. They were racing in the SP8 category with a Audi R8 LMS. This team lined up some of the most important female drivers in all motor racing: Pippa Mann, Christina Nielsen, Kerry Schreiner, and Celia Martin. Pippa Mann, we all know her like one of the most famous female drivers to have started the Indy 500. Then also Christina Nielsen, two times IMSA champion, and also Kerry Schreiner, a German young driver that is racing in Italian GT Championship. He has raced also in the ADAC GT Masters. He will be racing also in the BMW M2 Challenge, in many other championships. And also Celia Martin, who is a French driver that moved to Germany specifically because she wanted to race on the Nordschleife. So she is probably the driver that knew the track better, even though Kerry also had previously competed in the 24-hour race at the Nordschleife. Fabian Wohlwend, the W Series racer, was also making her debut in the GT Tire WS Racing team, but she was not racing in that same lineup. She was racing in a BMW F30 car in another class. We also had Laura Kreiham, who was part of that same team in 2020 and had also did the qualifying race with them a couple of weeks before, but she was back to her KTM factory team in another class as well. Then we have Janine Schaffner, who is a Nordschleife specialist. She's racing in the Get Speed Mercedes AMG GT3. She was the only woman in the GT3 class. Then we also had Jasmine Pricing in the Max Cruiser Racing Volkswagen Golf TCR class in SP3T class. She's a TCR specialist in touring cars. Also, we had Chantal Prince in SP6 and also Sophie Gachot in the number 142 Porsche Cayman in V5 class. So many female drivers, and of course the race was very tricky on weather. There was a huge rain downpour in the opening hours. There were cars all over the track and were going off into the barriers early on in the race. One of these cars was unfortunately the number 60 KTM car of Laura Kreinhammer, even though she was not behind the wheel at the time of the accident. It was one of her teammates. But of course, then the car had to be brought back to the pit lane for repairs and spent a lot of hours in the garage for repairs. So it was definitely not the race that Laura was hoping for. And of the important team in GT4 with Pippeman, Kerry, Christina, and Celia did very well. It was very tricky race for them, because there were 6 lead changes in that class, but ultimately they came out on top. They could win the 24 Hour of the Nurburgring, which is a great achievement for them and for women in the sport. Great race for every one of them. Also, just Kerry Schreiner had a spin later on in the race, but managed to keep it off of the barriers, and luckily there were no issues for them, and then finished the race. We have a couple of words from them. Pippa said, "I know several years of hard work have gone into this win. I feel very fortunate to have been part of this team, and everything came together this year. I wish we hadn't had the severe fog and we had been able to race the entire race as planned, but in the end, it's the result that matters." And of course, she is right. The victory is a great demonstration that what this sport is about, when everyone is united back together and trust each other. Said Celia Martin to us after the race. I could prove to myself that when people are trusting me and giving me the opportunity, I can deliver and give back the results. I hope that for my career, this victory will help me to create even more opportunities and allow me to continue to learn and develop myself. This is what Celia Martin said, and she also had some good words coming from Pippeman, from very experienced driver Pippeman. There was another podium for Jasmine Pricing, coming second in the TCR SP8T category. So another podium for Jasmine, that was racing in many different categories this year, and also 1-2 for Max Kruse Racing. Janine Schnoffer was up to second in overall at one point in the opening hours, then finished P14 overall and 4th in class. She had quite a strong race. Laura Kreinhammer, as we said, had a very challenging race in the Cup X class. Both Chantal Prince and Sophie Gachot won their classes. They were not very crowded classes, I would say, but we always say that it's very important to finish the race on such a difficult racetrack. It's more of a challenge with yourself, with your track, and with your car. So huge props to them to finish such a legendary race in their respective classes. Fabienne Volvend was P7 in her class. Also, her car had quite a difficult race due to mechanical issues. They had quite long stops, but still she finished the race, which is what matters. And this was probably the biggest race of the weekend last week at the Nürburgring Nordschleife.
Very big race, a lot of following here in the United States of this race. So definitely is something for a lot of race fans. This is one of the big races, as well as the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where when it comes to endurance races, they talk about this race. MotoE, we essentially had their third round of 2021. Maria Herrera, definitely somebody to watch there. She is the only female rider in the grid and within the MotoGP weekend at Spain for the entire weekend. Maria, she started the race 15th after qualifying. She had been practicing around 14th, 15th, just that mid-level, but definitely when it comes to the race, she has proven in the first 2 rounds and in this round, she has the pace to come up towards the front. This time she was only able to get 11th place. missing out that top 10. However, it's MotoGP racing, so definitely that comes to the point. She was able to score some points, so she has scored points in the first 3 rounds of MotoE. Very big, good start for her in the 2021 season, and definitely the next race for her is going to be really exciting. It'll be in the Netherlands at Assen, June 26th, and we have a very exciting weekend of races coming up this weekend.
Yeah, many more races coming up this weekend. Very interesting and exciting again for endurance races. WEC, the World Endurance Championship, is back for the 4 hour of Podium, the second round of the season, with 2 all-female teams. One in LMP2, which is, of course, the Richard Mille Racing team, with Sophia Flörsch, Tatiana Calderon, and Beiske Visser. Also, the Iron Dames are back with Manuela Gostner, Michelle Gatting, and Rahel Frey. Michelle Gatting will be making her WEC debut after, of course, Catherine Legg is racing in that team usually, but she has a clashing commitment in the USA for IMSA, and of course the GP of Detroit at Belle Isle. Catherine Legg will be back in the Porsche of Richard Mille Team Hardpoint entry. In BTCC also we have 2 female drivers, one of you, Jade Edwards, who is competing in a full-time entry, and also Jessica Hawkins making her second appearance in the championship after a one-off last year. In British Formula 4 we have back Abby Pulling after her test in W Series. She is back focusing on her title hunt in British GT. Both races are going underway at Snetterton Circuit in the UK. Also big weekend for the ADAC Championships at Red Bull Ring in Austria. As we said previously, the ADAC Formula 4 Championship with Hamda Al Qubaisi and Maya Weog. Also, we will have the GT Masters race with Simona Di Silvestro coming from her adventure in the IndyCar last time out in the Indy 500, and also the GT4 Championship with Gabriela Hilkova. We had an interview with her some weeks ago. Lisette Brahms and Sandra van der Sloot will be racing for Team Drivers, which is a team that is promoting diversity and inclusion in motorsport. It's a very interesting and exciting team for making their debut in the ADAC GT4. And also Victoria Frost, also racing in a Mercedes AMG GT4 car. In the US, we will have the NASCAR Truck Series race at Texas Motor Speedway with Ailey Deegan and Jennifer Jo Cobb, and also the ARCA Series West with Stephanie Moyer. We have an interview coming up with Stephanie Moyer tomorrow, so we definitely encourage everyone to check out our website for her interview, and also for all the races coming up this weekend that we'll be covering.
And right here, you can see all the races that they'll be covering this upcoming weekend. A lot of action going on. Be sure to visit their website, racersbehindthehelmet.com. And of course, on their homepage, that's where you can see all the greatest stories that they are publishing week after week, just about daily on their website. So definitely highly encourage for all our viewers to go check out their website. Thank you all for tuning in to today's program. I'm just about out of time. We encourage everyone to visit racersbehindthehelmet.com, follow them on social media, and of course, subscribe to the Grid Network right here. We'll be back next Thursday, same program, same time. For Daniel, I'm Joe. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Poblis. Poblis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Poblis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.